What's up everyone? It's Rayvon from Love Lola. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am just so happy to have you here with me. Make sure that you take a moment to look down below in the description box because that's where you're going to find a link to where you can purchase the pattern. I'm going to have links to where I purchase my materials, my vinyls, my zippers, my hardware. If I'm using it, you're going to have a link to where you can find it. Today, we're going to be making so get all of your pieces cut out, and then what you want to do is go ahead and follow the instructions for any markings you need to make. So it shows you where you need to mark for your top, where you're going to be placing your top connector. Make sure that you stabilize your flap really well because you're going to be, you're going to need that to support your handle. So what she says is you can put Decavol Light. You can use Pel on Peltex 70. I'm going to be using a layer of Sofuse Plus. I'm probably going to use 2 layers of Sofuse Plus just along this top piece. You can also use this piece if you would like to mark, if you would like to add a label right there. You're going to be marking where you're going to be adding your turn lock. Your front panel, you're going to be marking where you're going to be putting your turn lock and also where those little side pieces are going to be going. This side panel is one piece. Don't cut it down the middle, okay? This is one piece. We're going to be folding it later to add a stitch. All right, let's get started. For my flap, I am using vinyl for the back of it, and it's a pretty thick vinyl, but I did still go ahead and put 2 layers of Sofuse Plus on the top of both of these. Okay, now I'm going to place these pieces right sides together, and then I'm going to clip around the whole thing. If you are doing your connector the way that she does it, then you are going to get that done before you attach the flaps together. Because I'm doing grommets, I'm going to do it later. So we're going to get these attached. Okay, now let's go sew along the sides and the bottom at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Let's trim down our seam allowance. And turn it out. Once you've got your flap folded out, you know, your seam is really nice and flat, go ahead and top stitch around the entire thing at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so let me remind you, if you did decide to put your label on the front, you should have already done that, okay? Because once you have it together, obviously the label is going to show. So make sure that if you're doing a label or any kind of stuff like that, decorative items on the front, you get that added before you get these attached, or at least before you close this up. Because now you can still go and add a label if you want to. But once we close the top of this shut, which I'm doing right now, that's it, okay? So do what you got to do. Okay, so now we're going to use our flap piece to mark where we're going to be bending our flap over. So we see this arrow, I'm just going to put my clip right here, and I know to bend at the top of my clip. And then I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing to the other side. There we go. Okay, once you have that marked, you're going to bend it right there. And I'm going to put a clamp on it. Bend the other side. Put a clamp on it. Make sure that your sides are lined up. And now we're gonna go top stitch across here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm gonna go ahead and actually put some clamps on it because I don't want this moving around, you know? You know, just a little overkill. Oh gosh. All right, let's get it. Okay, so this is where we are right now. I could add my grommets now, but I'm lazy and don't like to change to my zipper pull. So I am going to, I think, wait until my bag is completely done to add my grommets. I just had something stupid on my flap and now it's kind of warping and I'm really mad at myself. But it's okay. It's gonna be okay. Okay, yeah, so we're here. This is freaking cute. I'm gonna do my grommets later because I don't wanna, I'm too lazy. I don't have time to change my zipper foot. So what you wanna do now is line this up where the edge of this should be flush with those dotted lines. What I would recommend is if I would have just put my mark for my turn lock on the front piece, you know, right after it was cut. And I would have marked that on my exterior piece and just had it already done. But if not, you can go ahead and do that and get it marked now like I forgot to put this inside. I wanted to put this inside of my flap like that so that when I turned it out, it would stick out so I can connect this. I totally forgot. So whatever. I'm just gonna put that to the side and I'll marinate on that for a little bit. Let's move on to the side pieces. You know, it wouldn't be a Lola bag if I didn't mess something up along the way. So let's grab our 2 side pieces and our bottom. Actually, you can just grab your 2 side pieces. What we wanna do, and I think this is so cool, I haven't seen this done before, is we're gonna fold it where right sides are touching, long way. This is so dope. Okay, and then we're going to go and stitch from one end to the other. And this is right sides are showing, okay? And we're gonna stitch at 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and we are going to stitch from one end to the other at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Go ahead and do it to both pieces. Okay, once we've got that done, we're gonna grab our bottom panel piece. And we want to get the edge that is wider. Bottom piece is right side facing up. The piece we just did is right side facing down. We're gonna pin them together and then we're gonna go and get them attached at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to go ahead and do both of my sides while I'm over at the machine. So after that one's done, I'm gonna grab my other piece and do the same thing, right side facing down and get it attached. Now, when you get this attached, you do want to make sure that you back stitch a couple of times when you go over that midpoint that's bent. Also, when you originally did these pieces, you should have folded the seam allowance towards the same direction so that once you add it to the panel, the seam allowances will be going in the same direction as well. So just some things to make note of. Okay, now we want to push our seam towards the bottom. Finger press it. And then we're gonna go and top stitch along the bottom panel at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And we're gonna do that to both sides. Okay, now let's get our little straps worked on. What we're gonna do is place them right sides together. If you're using leather, you can use cement glue to attach it. I'm not using leather for this part, so I'm gonna place them together. Wrong sides touching, I don't know what I said, but wrong sides to be touching. And then we're gonna sew around the entire thing at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so I'm actually gonna put my zipper, I'm gonna get my zipper installed before I add those little cute little things. So we're gonna measure 2 1/8 of an inch down and then find the center. As you can see, I used double-sided tape on the back of my zipper panel. So I'll get that taken off, okay. And that's centered and 2 1/8 of an inch down. All right. Okay, for sake of time and storage space, I'm not gonna do the zipper panel on here, but I will have a link for you to watch on how to get a zipper panel like this attached. And we can close this up when we're done. Okay, so that's done. And I'm gonna wait to add these because I don't wanna be sewing my sides together and feel like these are in the way. So I went ahead and put my holes here and also on the front panel, but I'm gonna install it later. So right now, let's grab our front panel and our gusset. Okay, so we're gonna grab our front panel. And we should have our midpoints marked. We should. So our front panel is right side facing up. Our gusset is right side facing down. Match up those midpoints. Match up. Oh, this leather is so tough, y'all. And match up your top corners. Clip around the entire bag. Go ahead, clamp around the entire bag and go ahead and you can put some clips in the gusset around the curves to help everything fit a little bit better. All right, there's gonna be a little bit of bunching in the corners, but it's okay. Just work everything out, it's fine. Once you get it attached, we're gonna go and sew this together at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, once you've got that added, go ahead and grab your back panel and your flap. And you want to place them so your back panel is right side facing up and your flap is the bottom side facing up. And you want to place it, match up the center points. So the front of our flap is touching the exterior of our bottom piece. And we're going to take the tip, find the midpoints and match them up. So we're lining up the raw edges. And let's get those pinned. Right there. All right, let's go and get this attached at about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now if you did the connectors the way that that she did it, make sure that those are facing down when you add this so it doesn't get caught in your seam allowance, your little D-rings. Okay, now we're just gonna add this to the front panel. Same way that we did, we're gonna add it the same way that we added the front panel. So right sides are touching, match up your midpoints. I didn't show it on camera, but whenever I do curves now, I go ahead, here, I'm gonna roll this out of the way, just because I don't want any problems. I go ahead and put tape on my corners now, just because it makes my life easier. I just do it on the corners. I use this little 1/8 inch double-sided tape that I get from Amazon. I think it's the brand is Tandy. And I just put it on the corners, the curves, and it just stops everything from shifting around. Once I do that and add clips or add clamps, I don't have no problems. Okay, so I went ahead and trimmed down my seam allowance, especially around the curve. I left the seam allowance at the very top, the length that it was, to make it easier when we get this added to the lining, okay? All right, so now we can turn it out. Okay, so I got my bag turned out, and what's happening is this leather that I use on the side is pretty thick, and my purple vinyl is pretty thick too, so I thought it would be able to hold up to it, but it can't. It's kind of, you can see it's got a little waving going on because it's just fighting with those seams on the bottom that connects with the leather. So what I'm going to do is, thankfully, like I said, this vinyl is pretty thick, so I have my scrap pieces of Sofuse. And what I'm going to do is just reach in and start attaching pieces over and over to my bottom panel until it becomes hard enough to where it's not puckering up where it's meeting with the leather. All right, and I'm just going to start grabbing pieces, lining it up with the edge of the vinyl, and I'm just going to go from there. Okay, so I went ahead and added a few layers of the Sofuse on my bottom panel, and then I also cut out and added a layer of it on my front and back panel, just because it wasn't holding up to this leather. I didn't think that through. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what was I thinking? I wasn't thinking. All right, so all is well. Everything's great. What I'm gonna do now is go ahead and get those little side pieces added. Now I'm gonna do mine reverse of how she did it in the pattern. She added the double cap rivets on the front panel. I would prefer to have them on the back, you know, the permanent fixture. I just feel like it would look better on the back, and then whoever's using this can open it and it will stay on the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those connected. I went ahead earlier and used my template to get those holes in. And now, oh, duh. I have the interfacing on now and my rivet wouldn't go through. I was like, what in the world? Okay. Make sure when you get these connectors added that you are adding them at a straight angle. Okay, let's go ahead and get our snaps attached. If you don't have any of these snaps, don't worry. You can use magnetic snaps. There's other options. So use what you have. Don't fret about it. Okay, so first I'm going to do my front pieces. So I'm going to grab, I believe this is the post and the stud. So first we're grabbing the piece that's a little bit longer and the short piece. The longer piece we're going to bring up through the back so that it pokes through. And then we're going to place that shorter piece right on top. Grab our base, put it in the groove. Grab the tool that goes, the side that goes, what am I doing? Okay, there we go. The side that goes in a little bit. Focus. Focus, camera, focus. There we go. Set it right on top. And then we're just gonna hit it a little bit. That feels pretty good. Repeat it to the other side. I am struggling so much with these nails, and you're probably laughing because they're not even really long, but for me, they're super long. When I watch like Lauren and Saya with those nails, I don't know how they'll do it. I can't do anything, and mine aren't even that long. I'm sure it's because you wear them all the time. You know, I've never worn nails. I did powerlifting and cheerleading in high school, and then college I continued with cheerleading, so, you know, nails wasn't really an option. I never did them. I never got into it, so now I just can't. All right, and now we're going to get the other piece on the other hole that we have here. Let me get it poked all the way through. Okay. And so we're going to grab this piece. It's like a solid circle. Okay, so you want the flat piece. That's going to be on the outside of the bag. On the outside of that strap. There we go. And then the piece that has the hole in the middle, that's going to go on the inside. Okay. And then grab a tool that goes in at a point on the end. Place it in the middle of that hole. And we're going to strike it a few times. That's it. And if you did it right, hopefully it will snap on. Let's see. Yup. Perfect. How cute is that? Good job. All right, we can set this aside. How cute is this? And work on our lining. Okay, once we have our lining, pockets, our guts, whatever you want to call it, the insides finished, we're going to get the gusset attached. So we can move this over for now. Oh, let me say, on the pocket, we're leaving the bottom open because we're going to be reaching through it to do some stuff later. But what I will say, because we're turning our bag through this, I always only sew down about 2 inches when I'm doing that. Because I hate when I have this hollowness that I'm trying to get my whole bag through. When I only sew down about 2 inches, that just makes it a little bit easier to maneuver the bag through. So I do recommend not closing it all the way down the sides. Leave a bit open so that we can make our life a little bit easier down the road. Does that make sense? Don't go all the way down. Just go down a couple of inches on the sides. Back stitch really well because we're turning the bag out through that. Okay, let's work on our gusset. Try to remember how we did it because it's the exact same way we did it earlier. That's what I do when I'm making a bag, especially when I was new to it. Whenever I would get to a step that I was repeating, I would just try to see if I can do it without looking back. So try to do it without referencing this video just to get used to the process of making a bag. But basically, we're going to do just like before. We want our bottom piece facing up. We're going to take our our side pieces. They're going to be facing down. And their right sides touching. And we're going to get those attached at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, this side, and we're going to also go ahead and do this side. Now, once we get these attached, we're going to open it up, and we're going to push our seam allowance towards the bottom piece, and then we're going to do a top stitch at 1/8 of an inch along our bottom piece. Okay, once we have the gusset done, we're going to get that attached just like before. Grab one of your panels, find the center, match it up. Match up your corners. Pin all the way around. You can go ahead and put some clips in the corner of the gusset to help with the curves. And we're gonna go and get this attached at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once you've got this side attached, then you're gonna grab the other lining, do the same thing to get it attached. But on one of these linings, make sure that you leave an opening on the bottom because we're gonna be reaching through the bottom of this as well. So I would say about, I don't know, 5-6 inches on the bottom should be fine. When I get down towards the bottom of the lining, I am going to increase my seam allowance by just a little bit more, not too much, probably up to like 1/2 an inch, just to help my lining not be too saggy. Okay, so my lining is done. I have trimmed down my seam allowance except for the top corners. I left that longer so that we can open that when adding it to the exterior. We left that opening at the bottom of the bag that I should have left bigger. What in the world, Ray? Oh gosh. Okay, I'm going to unzip my inner zipper. Get it ready for, this is gonna be something. It's okay, we can do it. Okay, so now we're gonna grab our exterior panel and we're gonna turn it wrong side out. I'm going to go ahead and unsnap that. All right, turn it out. Okay, and then we want to turn our lining so that it's right side facing out. And then we're going to place our lining inside of our exterior. And you want your pockets, they should be looking at each other. Okay, so we've got our lining inside of our exterior. This pocket needs to be tucked inside, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so get that tucked in. Here we go. Match up your midpoints. And she said to make sure that your seam, your you know, that little notch in your side pieces, that it's facing the same direction that it is on the bottom. So I'm gonna reach in and feel where mine is facing that way, okay? And I'm gonna make sure it stays in the same direction. I'm matching up my gusset corners. Opening up those seam allowances that we left a little bit longer. Once I line up all 4 of my points, my gusset points, I'm just gonna clamp around the entire thing. All right, we're gonna go and get this attached at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, once we've got that attached, we are going to pull the lining out. All right, and now we're going to reach through the lining pocket, and we're going to slowly turn our bag out through that zipper, okay? Take your time. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and get my grommets put on for my chain. And I'm just going to measure in 1 inch and centered. So this is about 1 1/8 inch wide, this little area. So I'm going to go in 1 inch, so half. I'm going to go in 1 inch and about 1/2 inch down. Bam. Right there. That's going to be my center. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. 1 inch in and 1/2 inch down. Right there. Alright. And now I'm basically going to just follow the instructions for installing the grommet. Okay, really quick, since I do have I've had a few people reach out to me regarding these T-bars that I have on my site that I'm actually going to be using today. So I guess let me go ahead and demonstrate how I use it. There's a few different ways, whatever works for you. You can connect the T-bar directly to the chain if you like. It depends on the size grommet that you use. So I have 2 sizes for the T-bar. They come in 2 sizes. And today I'm using my 10 millimeter grommet. So it's pretty small. This is the grommet that I'm using today. So because it's so small, I'm going to be using my little T-bar, and because the grommet is so small, my chain can't connect directly to the T-bar, so I'm using, why is this light so bright? So I'm using a little ring to connect the two. Not sure if you can see that. There's a little ring connecting them. And then I connect it to a little grommet. These are little, not a grommet, spring ring, I believe is what you call it. These are tiny. These are like a 10 millimeter. I have these on my site also. And they're little spring locks. You can use them to connect anything. They're just great to have, period. I use them for all kind of stuff. But today, I'll be using that for this. Okay? It's just a little spring lock. And what I'll be doing is I connected my T-bar to a little ring, and then I connected my ring to one of those, and then I'll be adding the end of my chain to that. So that's how I'm going to have that connected today. You also could add just the chain to the ring that's connected to the T-bar. That's an option. Like I said, I'm dealing with a small grommet today, so that's why I had to do all of that. Once you use, if you're using a bigger grommet, then you won't have all of those issues. For example, if I was using this big 18 millimeter grommet, I would just be able to put my T-bar through it like that. And I would be able to connect my chain directly to it because of the size of it. So it would just connect right there and you would be good to go. So it just depends on the size of grommets and stuff that you're using. And today, because of the little space that I have for my flap, I'm gonna be using my little 14 millimeter grommet, and that's why I have to make these adjustments and add the ring to it so that it'll all fit. But that's what I'm doing today. Let's see. So let me record it. Just in case anyone is considering playing around with these T-boards. They're really great piece of hardware to have as far as options for getting a strap connected. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my grommet done. And that's just the regular way that you get a grommet installed. Nothing special about that. I really was gonna use this one for the back and then just connect my chain to it, but the space is a little tight, so I don't want to squeeze it in there, but that's what I was gonna do. But I'll just use my T-bar. No biggie. It's whatever. It would have been cute though, right? Should I do it? Should I do that one instead? No. I'm just gonna... Oh, I know what I want to do. I want to do my top stitching first so that it doesn't get in the way of the grommet once it's added. That's one thing I hate, is trying to fit my foot around stuff because I'm too lazy to get my zipper foot out. Yeah, so I'm going to go and add my top stitch first. So finger press the top of your bag really nice. Okay, and get it pinned really nice, and then go and do a top stitch at 1/8 of an inch around the top. Okay, I found a piece of wood to get in there. Way too big. All right, let's give it a shot. Whoopsie. And I am cutting out a piece of my pocket. Not happy about it. This is just where I am in my life right now, okay? If I did it again, I would probably just do the exterior. But I just don't feel like trying to get all that figured out right now. Okay, so I changed my mind again when it came to the chain. Can you believe it? I changed my mind again. I decided to actually go with the spring hook that I used on the front of the bag. That way it kind of looks like, you know, it matches. Why didn't I think of that? So I've got that attached to my chain, and I'm just going to hook that on if my nails allow me to. There we go. Perfect. Okay. And I just, you know, got my grommet attached, and I will be using this to close the bag. I thought that was kind of cool, something different. Yeah, that's neat. I can dig it. I don't know if I mentioned, I just got a piece of, I cut a little piece of leather, a little strip, and got that attached to my flap with a double cap rivet. Really simple. And that's it. Oh my goodness, I love it. What a cool bag. Oh, Edmana, girlfriend, I always love your patterns, and this is no exception. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And give me just a minute, I'll get some pictures taken. Oh, love it. I'm a fan. Mwah! Chef's kiss. All right, y'all, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me for this video today. if you make this bag, I want to see it. Do you understand? I want to see it. So tag me. You can find me on all of the social media platforms. And I'll also go ahead and add all of that stuff in my, I'll add a link to all of that stuff in the video description box as well. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.